Hi everyone, and welcome to Amy Learns to Cook. On the show today, we're going to do the ultimate stand mixer challenge between the KitchenAid Professional 600 and the Bosch Universal. These are two of the top of the line mixers for the home cook, and we're going to be using the paddle attachment to make some cookies, the whip to make a meringue, and the dough hook to make some bread dough. So join me for my ultimate stand mixer challenge between the KitchenAid and the Bosch. So we're going to be looking at these mixers using the same categories as we did for the ones that are under $100. If you're interested in watching our test of mixers under $100, go ahead and look at our previous upload. I'll put a link in the description. So we're going to be looking at the overall look and feel. We're going to be looking at each paddle, whip, and dough hook, and then we're going to give our final assessment of who's the winner. So this is the Bosch Universal, and this might look like kind of a different mixer than what you're used to seeing. It operates on a little different kind of platform than the traditional KitchenAid or like Sunbeam. This mixer claims that it can do multiple loaves of bread. It can do 4 or 5 loaves of bread. This happens to be the previous model. There's a new model out that I've seen people making up to 9 loaves of bread in here. So this has a really strong transmission and it has a big capacity. So the way this works is this is your mixing bowl, and underneath here is your transmission, and it has a really strong transmission that allows it to use, so you can use it with a lot of dough, a lot of heavy dough. So you're pretty much going to put this on here, and this is your lid. You can add ingredients here, and the lid is 2 pieces. You can take it off like that. And this is your dough hook. And the dough hook is a little different than like your KitchenAids. This scrapes the edge and this hooks your dough and kneads it. So that just goes on there and then you turn it on. It also has a it has this like hub thing, and this thing holds your paddles. These are your paddles, and they just hook on like this, and this will go on your mixer head just like those. It also has little whips that go on there, so it just goes back together like this. So your dough hook just goes on here, and we'll put the lid on, and this is how your mixer runs. And you can take this off to add ingredients. What's unique about this mixer is it is 700 watts. It has a lot of watts compared to a lot of the KitchenAids, and it has a transmission in it that's really heavy duty. It comes with the ability to add a lot of different attachments. It has this hub here that you can add a blender, you can add all kinds of fun stuff to this. They've been making this Bosch for quite some time, I think back into the 70s, and so we're going to test this out. Okay, so one issue I found, and it's the same thing with the KitchenAid and with the Hamilton Beach we tested. The beaters are, this part is burnished. It's just aluminum, and it will react and give out this weird powder, particularly if you put it in the dishwasher. It gives off this really gray powder. I made the mistake of putting the Hamilton Beach and some of my KitchenAid parts in there, and it just was a nightmare cleaning it. This just did it naturally from the air. Eric had to spend quite a bit of time scrubbing this. I really don't understand why mixer manufacturers do that. He actually had to scrub this thing too really good because it just kept giving off that powder. So the overall look and feel, it's a sturdy machine. It sits sturdy to the counter. It has a big bowl for us to use. It's easy to operate. It has a hub here where you can put all kinds of stuff like a blender, all kinds of stuff, attachments to this. I can't say it's the most attractive looking machine. To me, it looks a little dated. Even the new model looks a little dated. They could work on that. But other than that, it has a really good look and feel, and it feels like a very strong machine. So we're going to discount the aluminum and the kind of look to it, and we're going to give it an A-. This is the KitchenAid Pro 600. This bad boy is going to be going up against the Bosch. This is a 6-quart mixer. It comes in a lot of different colors. It's your traditional KitchenAid. This is one of the larger versions of KitchenAid. It comes in a lot of different models in terms of sizes and in terms of the way the bowl sits. Some of them have a tilt head and the bowl attaches at the bottom here and it's more stationary. This has a bowl lift. The difference maybe is just preference. This happens to be a really big mixer, and if you want to push it back under your counter, most of the time this won't fit. The tilt head mixer tends to fit under your counter a little better. Of course, it's not going to fit if it's tilted up, so you probably would have to pull it out. It's best to measure your countertop, your height of your cabinets, to see what works for you. This mixer comes with a ton of different attachments. We have here, we're going to be using the paddle, the whip, and the dough hook. This is what we're going to be testing today. But one great thing about KitchenAid is it has this hub right here, and there are so many things that you can attach to this hub. Graters, meat grinders, all kinds of stuff. Even has an ice cream maker. So this is a very versatile machine because it has features that it has lots and lots of attachments and accessories. Okay, so with these attachments, there is an issue with the same as the other mixers. The attachments that come with this are just aluminum and they're burnished. So that means if you put them in the dishwasher, they will give off that gray powder. I have absolutely no idea why they continue to make them that way. I'm sure it has something to do with cost. You can order coated beaters like this. This can go into the dishwasher. I also have my dough hook is coated. Unfortunately, they don't offer that with a whip. I don't know why, but at one time I think I got a stainless steel whip. And the whips that they make now, they do not. These are stainless steel, but this is not stainless steel. So if you were to put this in the dishwasher, this right here would go crazy, right, with the powder. My suggestion is, because they don't offer that, is only wash this by hand immediately after you use it and make sure you dry it. Even oxygen will make that happen. And there probably will be a point in time that it will start oxidizing. We got some cleaner from an auto parts store that's actually meant to clean wheel tires that gets off aluminum oxide. I don't know how well it worked. We've used Barkeeper's Friend. We've boiled it in vinegar. None of it is 100% like if it was solid stainless steel. So that's just an issue across the board, not with KitchenAid, but with a lot of them. KitchenAid is the classic standard, and a lot of people have these mixers. Whether or not they're strong enough to handle our heavy dough is going to be another question. We're going to be testing that. I think the overall look and feel of this machine, it's a really nice machine. You can get it in a lot of colors, so it's great to sit on your counter. The look and feel is excellent. I give it an A.
So today we're going to do the oatmeal cookie. We're hungry for oatmeal cookies. So we're going to do a standard recipe for quick roast, right? Not pimping them. So we're going to start off with 14 tablespoons of softened butter. And we're supposed to cream this stuff, but I'm just going to add the sugar all at once because, well, I'm just that way. So we have 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. So now we're going to cream the sugar and the butter. So let's just go ahead and turn this little guy up. Already you can see that the KitchenAid is mixing where the little guys tended to just push things around a little bit. And we're going to just basically cream it. Might take it a moment. We made a minor paddle change because the paddle and the spare paddle, for some reason, they're wiggling and they're banging too much. We have one that has a scraper on it. That sounds horrible when the bowl is dry. But when you got wet ingredients in there, it doesn't squeal, and it actually does a pretty nice job. So we're not going to downgrade any points on the mixer. It seems like it's the paddle problem. So on with the contest. So at this point, we're going to add 2 eggs and a teaspoon of vanilla, which I've already combined into one thing here. So let's go ahead and turn this guy back on. And they're in there. And we're just going to go ahead and cream these guys for a few seconds here. So definitely operating a lot better than the cheaper guys were. We're going to add 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And we've already have put in a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. So let's go ahead and mix this on low here. And our goal is just to get it mixed in there and combined. We're not trying to beat it and make a bowling ball out of it. Whoop! Got a little bit of dust flying because I had it too fast. Okay, that looks pretty combined. And let's go ahead and get our oats. So at this point, we've got 3 cups of this oatmeal oats. So we're just going to go ahead and put this on like a slow and get it in here. And that gets nice and rolled in there pretty easy. That's pretty good. And then lastly, we've got a cup of raisins. Actually, about 1.5 cups because I like raisins. And we're just going to go ahead and put this on. So I would say those are folded in there pretty nicely. So without running this excessively long and trying to make the, I don't know, in the concrete, which is what would happen, this only vibrated just a little bit, so it seemed to handle it. And this is a pretty heavy dough. So I give this a good grade. It did what it's supposed to. I guess I'll give it an A. All right, we're going to do the Bosch, and because the Bosch is what it is at 700 watts compared to 575 for the KitchenAid, we're going to do a double batch, right? Wouldn't be fair. He'd be doing this in his sleep. So we're going to start off with 28 tablespoons of butter. And this is what 20 looks like. It's a lot. So we're just going to go ahead and throw that in there. I'm leaving the splash guard off because I don't want to make that much of a mess all over this. As Amy explained, it's not really dishwasher safe for some of these parts. So I don't want to make a mess. Now we're going to go ahead and add the sugar as well. So we have 3 cups of packed brown sugar and, I don't know, around 1.5 cups of white granulated sugar. And we're just going to go ahead and get that all in there at once. And then we're going to cream this. Let's get this little splash guard on here. Well, let's go ahead and get this going here. So, making a little bit of noise here, but it looks cream to me. So let's go ahead and add the eggs. So we got 4 eggs, 4 whole eggs, and 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Let's go ahead and get that mixed in there. And that looks like it. You can just smell the vanilla. It's really nice, and it's getting really creamy in there. So this guy's just a little on the squeaky side. No harm, right? We're going to put in 3 cups of all-purpose flour. In fact, I'm going to take this little guard off I want to make. So all things considered equally, the little squeaky isn't going to kill anything, and the KitchenAid had its own little noise issues, so I'm not going to deduct any points unless this thing starts smoking like the Sunbeam, right? So let's go ahead and put in 3 cups of flour here. I don't want to make too much of a mess, so I'm just going to go ahead and pour it off on the side. We also got a couple tablespoons of cinnamon in there, a teaspoon of baking soda, and about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of salt. So let's go ahead and get this little guy back on there. I think that's on there. And let's go ahead and get this mixed. Whoa! That's operator error. Let's go ahead and get this guy on there too. And I think this thing is nice and quiet. It's definitely mixing really nice. And I think that's combined about as good as we're going to get it. No need to run it for 20 minutes, right? So the performance is way better than any of the other mixers, right? We're doing so good. Let's get some oats in here. So we have a double batch. So this is 6 cups of oatmeal. So let's go ahead and get this in here. The KitchenAid and the Bosch both have a little bit more room to add things than some of those other mixers, unless you push them offset. So that's brownie points for these guys as well. Let's go ahead and get this guy in here. And I don't want oats to go flying, right? Let's go ahead and, I'm just going to go ahead and fold this in. So I'm going to turn it backward. There's like an M setting. I don't know what M stands for, but it allows you to kind of pulse it if you want. And that's all we want to do, is we just want to kind of fold these things in. Look at my lights. My lights keep dimming. So this guy's pulling a little bit of juice. So he's in there. And lastly, we got about 2.5 cups of raisins. And we're just going to go ahead and kind of evenly disperse those guys. And I don't think they're going to be flying, but just in case, right? Because I don't have my goggles on. I don't want to lose vision here. We're going to fold them in, so let's just go like this. So we take this off. I just want to see how much is stuck to the sides. And we really don't. This entire side over here is clean. This side over here has a little bit of stuff. And if I just gently mix them, we can see the stuff is really just falling all over the place. This guy's going to probably work his way to the right. So I would say these beaters do a really good job of coming as close to scraping the bowl for you as you can. So I would say the mixing also earns an A. So thumbs up. I just want to show you how much this dough actually weighs for your amusement. So the KitchenAid came in at 2 pounds, 12.5 ounces, or 1.265 kilograms. The Bosch came in at 2.54 kilograms, or 5 pounds, 9.5 ounces. And it didn't shake or rattle. KitchenAid didn't give me any concerns on this batch. I have this confidence level that it might not be able to handle a double batch as easily, just because when you spin the flour and then ultimately add the oats, it would tend to bog down. I don't want to hurt my KitchenAid, and Amy already told me that she'll cut this film in half and boogie on over to Macy's, and I don't want to come out of pocket, $499 on sale for another one.
Up next is the Bosch, and we're going to be doing the meringue test. I've equipped it with the whips, and we're going to go ahead and start this up. So I'm going to put in, this is the same recipe we've been using. It's 4 egg whites, and we use pasteurized egg whites just because. And we want to bring this to a foam. So I'm going to bring this up pretty high. Wow. Pretty cool. I probably should have the protective guard on, huh? That probably would help. And we're going to put in a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And we're going to let it go until it's kind of at soft peak stage. It has a lot of power. It's just handling it no problem. We're going to start putting in the sugar. And I have 1.5 cups of sugar here. I'm just going to go ahead and dump it in. That's 1.5 cups of the sugar, and we're going to let it go to stiff peaks. And let's check it. Wow. It looks like we are at stiff peaks. Woohoo! Looks like some puffy ears, huh? That went really fast. What we have here is our stiff peaks, and you can tell you have stiff peaks when you get that. Doesn't fall over when you go like that, and you have a little peak, just like that. Great for lemon meringue pie. You can put little peaks on there and cook those until they're brown. So I would say the Bosch did an excellent job. I give it an A. So KitchenAid and meringue. We're going to, I've got it fitted with the whip attachment. We're just going to turn it on. We're going to add our egg whites. I have 4 egg whites. And we're going to let this foam a little bit, if it can. The beater sometimes doesn't reach all the way to the bottom, and that was the trouble there for a minute, but it seemed to have caught it, and now we're going. We're going to add our 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. And we're just going to let it go for a few minutes. And we have soft peaks, so I'm going to add in the sugar. And we're going to beat it till we get stiff peaks. And let's see where we are. It looks like we got stiff peaks. Hard to do this backwards. And we have stiff peaks. It looks nice and glossy. They're beautiful. So the KitchenAid gets an A on meringue. We're going to test the Bosch's ability to make dough. So I fitted it with the dough hook, and we're going to put, I have 2.5 cups of 110-degree water. Right now I'm going to put about half of it in. We're making one of Julia Child's recipes. We're going to put the yeast in, which is a tablespoon of yeast, and we're going to put a tablespoon of sugar. And we're going to go ahead and just stir this up. And we're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. Okay, so we're just going to give that a little turn. The yeast is dissolved. We're going to put the rest of the water in here. So this was a total of 2.5 cups of water. And we're going to put in about half of our flour. And I've got 7 cups of flour here. So we're going to put in about half of it. It's going to be a little liquidy. Okay, and now we're going to add the rest of the flour. And we might have to adjust it a little bit with the flour. Woo! Let's go ahead and put the lid on here before I get a little too crazy. I get flour all over me. This is a little wet. So we've been letting it knead about 10 minutes, and we're going to do something really unique with this recipe. This is Julia Child's recipe, and we're going to put some butter in here. We're going to do it 1 tablespoon at a time. It's going to break the dough up, but the dough will eventually come back together. So we're just going to put it in 1 tablespoon at a time, and we're going to put in a whole cube. So we got the dough out of the Bosch. I'm just going to knead it a little bit. This is a very buttery dough. It's going to be rich and fabulous, right? I had to put a little bit of flour on because there was a lot of butter, but I can't wait to have this bread. So with the Bosch, I really think that it has the torque and it has the power to handle a lot of dough. I could see myself doing 4 loaves of bread. One issue I had is it walked around quite a bit. So I had to put it on these silicone pot holder things to keep it from moving everywhere. I think that it has a lot more capacity than the weight of the machine. The machine can handle a lot more capacity than the actual weight of the machine to keep it on the table. But I think it's a good machine. I think we can make a lot of bread in it if that's really what you want to do. I think for purposes of bread, I give it a B. So now we're going to test the KitchenAid with the dough. And we've equipped the KitchenAid with a dough hook, and I have 2.5 cups of water. We're going to put about half of it in, and we're going to put in our yeast. We're also going to put in a tablespoon of sugar, and we're just going to mix it up a little bit. Rest of the water. Hopefully I can get it in here this time. I spilled a little bit before. And then we're going to add about half of the flour. And we're going to mix that in. So we have 7 cups of flour, so we're going to add about 3.5 cups here. This is a pretty big recipe for the KitchenAid, so we'll see how it goes, right? We're going to knead it a little bit. Put it on a low speed. And we're just going to start adding the rest of our flour. It does sound a little on the windy side. but it seems to be handling the dough. So I'm going to put a little tiny bit of water. You really need to adjust your dough just so it comes together. So this is kind of an unusual recipe. We're going to put some butter in here. We're going to put like a stick of butter, 1 tablespoon at a time. Okay, so the machine performed pretty well. I think that it labored a little bit at times, and it did get a little warm. I had a little bit of a motor smell going on. It got a little warm, but it wasn't, overly terrible. It didn't walk around at all. It didn't do any of that stuff. I think that it, any more dough, I think it would have really challenged the machine. So I give it a B+. So my final analysis. This was a really tough decision for me because both mixers were great in a number of ways and they weren't great in a number of ways. And I'm really frustrated at this point because frankly, I do like to make a lot of bread and it's important for me to have a mixer that can handle the dough. Now, both of the mixers did a much better job than the mixers under $100. We were planning to test the winner of that against the winner of this. But when it comes down to it, I don't think that the Hamilton Beach could really handle anything. I think I would kill it. And my goal isn't just to kill the mixer because it does have a lot of good things that it can be used for. The Bosch and the KitchenAid both did great on the cookie test, on the meringue test. They both did outstanding. It was really with the dough. And what frustrates me as a home cook is I really want a mixer that I can make dough with and be confident that it's not going to burn up or something like that. And I don't have that confidence with one mixer in particular, and that's the KitchenAid. I am worried that eventually I will burn that thing up. The Bosch, I think the transmission is great. I think the Bosch will outrun the KitchenAid in the long term. I think you can do more bread with it than you can with the KitchenAid without worrying about whether or not it's going to die on you. But in the same light, the Bosch walked all over the counter, and the Bosch would walk down the street if I let it. And that's a big concern for me because I don't want something that's going to fall off the counter. It just bounced around a little too much for me. Now the new version of that Bosch mixer is a little bit larger. It's shaped a little bit different, and it does have suction cups on the bottom, which could potentially help with that. This walking around wasn't a huge issue for Eric. So we kind of have a difference of opinion as to who the ultimate winner will be. That's why technically, I know my initial reaction was just to declare a tie because, I really can't pick between the two. Eric likes the Bosch and he thinks the Bosch should be the winner. I like the KitchenAid. I really think the KitchenAid has a lot more options in terms of the attachments. I really like the way I could feed the stuff in there. I like the action of the dough hook a little bit better. It seems like to me the Bosch at times, it really just ran the dough around, would not quite, at times I didn't think it was kneading it like it was with the KitchenAid. I think the KitchenAid sort of needed a little better. I'm concerned that the KitchenAid wouldn't last a long time. If I were to make bread in it day in and day out, I think I would kill it. So options, if you're looking for a stand mixer, you can take all of our tests and take all of the things that we've done into consideration in making your decision. For me, right now, I think the KitchenAid works okay. My option in the future is to get a commercial level KitchenAid or a commercial level Hobart machine, potentially the N50. They have a countertop version of the Hobart that I think would rock some dough. But the cost of it is about $1,000 or more. Actually, the N50 might be more like $2,000. But the KitchenAid has a commercial version, a 7-quart, that is about in the $700 range. And that is a significant investment. But as you move along in your kitchen cooking, depending on what you want to do, you know, that might be an option for you. So I officially declare the winner of the Amy Learns to Cook Stand Mixer Challenge as the KitchenAid Pro 600. If you like this video, please subscribe below and visit my website at amylearnstocook.com. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest at Amy Learns to Cook.